What is going on, Only Playbook fans? We are back for another episode. Draft is less than a month away. So much to talk about. We've seen combines, pro days, guys are climbing, guys are falling, and we figured similar to last year, we're going to do our entire first round prediction. Me and Shovat are going to go back and forth, and we are going to predict what we think is going to happen in the first round, where every team is going to pick. I'd say it's pretty hard to prepare and predict a trade. So unless it really makes sense, I don't envision myself trading. But again, if the situation calls for it, I'm not opposed to it, Shovat. So we can discuss that. But how are you feeling, man, heading into the draft season?
Yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of talent, especially in like the defensive side of the game. There's a lot of running backs that we need to, address as well. There's so much player talent out there, so it's gonna be fun to see where everyone goes. And the number one pick, that's the most exciting pick. Titans. I think they probably will go quarterback, but we'll see what you decide to do with the Titans here with the first pick. But all in all, I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I mean, and this is how we're going to do it. We're just going to rotate. I got odds. You have evens. And speaking of the quarterbacks, before we get into it, I think that's going to be the biggest thing that dictates how the rest of this draft goes, right? I mean, this isn't the year where we're going to have 6 first-round quarterbacks like we did with the Fields and Fields year, essentially. And this could be closer to the year where Kenny Pickett, where we only had one quarterback go in the first round. So it's really uncertain, despite being less than a month away, about where these teams are going to go. So again, this is going to be complete guesses based on what we feel, what we've heard, what we actually think would be a logical fit. So kind of all encompassing, if you will. Shove it. Without further ado, let's just kick it off, my man. We will start the mock draft with the Tennessee Titans are on the clock with the number 1 pick. Yeah, I wish I had the music. I wish I had the music. All right. So I think there's no reason why this isn't a quarterback, right? I mean, if you look at the Tennessee Titans, they're one of the only teams that didn't in free agency address a quarterback spot, and they have one of the biggest glaring holes at the quarterback position. Unless they fully believe that another year of Will Levis could progress this player to become a viable starter, I don't truly believe that. I don't think they believe that or have bought into that. So I'm going to make things easy here and go with the quarterback, the first quarterback off the board. Cam Ward seems like he is the consensus number 1 pick or number 1 quarterback. So if there is going to be a quarterback that goes first, I believe it is Cam Ward. He has all of the intangibles to be number 1 quarterback in the NFL, and he has the upside to really be a guy that you would try to select with the first overall pick rather than some of these other guys. So Cam Ward goes to the Titans at 1. Shove it.
Yeah, I think that's a great solid pick. He's definitely put himself away from the other quarterbacks in this pack and said that, she showed that just looking at his gameplay and even the pro day as well, he's got that talent, the playmaker ability. So that's a great pick for the Titans. Number 2, I see Travis Hunter is top on this list here. However, I think that, they don't address the quarterback in this draft, in this first round. I think that what they can do to make their team the best is get a edge in Abdul Carter. The guy is a beast, man. Now, think of Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter. You don't want to pass up on a talent like that. Bolster that defensive line. He's just a like Micah Parsons type of player, like just a raw, great edge rusher. We'll get to the quarterback. I think Abdul Carter is the guy that the Browns should get, and let's lock him in.
I like it. Pair him with Myles Garrett. You have a absolute force along the edge. And what we've seen with dominant defensive lines is they can help mask the rest of the inefficiencies on your defense, right? So even if they're not addressing, like you said, quarterback or not addressing anything else, you have that dominant defensive line, and the Browns can get into grueling defensive battles where they're running the football, kind of similar to what their MO has tended to be. So I really like the pick here, Abdul Carter. Number 3, we have the New York Giants on the clock. The New York Giants have signed Russell Wilson. They've signed Jameis Winston. So they have kind of 2 quarterbacks that you're just like, I don't know. I guess Russell's probably the starter because he went in with the expectation that he's going to start. Winston at this point has been a glorified backup, so I don't expect him to go in there and expect to be the starter. So the fact that they got 2 quarterbacks leads me to believe that, yes, they're still not completely out of the running for quarterback, but with the 3rd overall pick, when there's not even a quarterback who's warranted to take this high of a draft pick on in terms of value, I think you have to go BPA here, Shovat. Travis Hunter is the best player on the board. He might be the best player in the draft. Again, whether he plays quarterback or cornerback or receiver, time will tell, but I think he has the ability to play both, and I think he's the best player at both in the draft. So when you're the Giants and you're trying to build around a young nucleus and Malik Neighbors, getting Travis Hunter, who can pair with him as a wide receiver 2 or come in and be your automatic CB1, I think that's a win-win. So Travis Hunter goes to the Giants at 3.
Yeah, I like that. Best player available strategy for the Giants. I could see them even actually getting Shadur Sanders as well, but we'll see if that actually happens. I like this pick. I like Travis Hunter. So next up, we've got the Patriots, and the Patriots need some, offensive line help. They've got, their rookie quarterback now in a sophomore year need to basically help them not get sacked so much. They do have wide receiver, although they did get Stephon Diggs. I'm looking at offensive line here. Will Campbell is a tackle that's on the board here. So let's see. LSU offensive lineman. Yeah, I think Will Campbell is going to be the pick here. I think that's who they should get to address their offensive line concerns. So he's a good pick right here. I think Will Campbell, we should lock this in.
Yeah, something to note, Will Campbell is incredibly explosive, but because of his length and flexibility limitations, they're projecting him to be a guard at the next level. But again, when you're plugging in somebody who is going to be such a impact positively on your offensive line, at this point, I don't think it matters if he's playing inside or outside. They can figure out where he best fits on that offensive line. But like you said, they need bodies to protect that young quarterback. So I think it makes a lot of sense to get Will Campbell there. That puts the Jags on the clock at number 5, Shobit. The Jags can really go every which way here. They do need a receiver. They have some playmakers on the outside, Brian Thomas Jr., but you're pairing them with guys like Gabe Davis, people that are kind of unproven and not really helping Trevor Lawrence take that next step. I mean, we've been waiting for it. It seems like it's been underwhelming. And at this point, are we in a window where we have to throw all of our resources at trying to see if, in fact, Trevor Lawrence is the guy? Because, how much more time do you have to figure that out? Does that mean you throw a Tet McMillan at him, have him have a true X receiver out there to play alongside Brian Thomas who can take the top off the defense? Or do you continue to build on the defensive interior? They need to fix the trenches. They need to stop the run. I think Mason Graham could be a really good fit here along the interior of the defensive line. The thing with the receivers, they've thrown so much resources and money at it. It's not like the best players, but they've allocated a lot of their finances to the receiver position. So I don't know that they're going to triple dip and draft a receiver here. So I'm actually going to go with defensive interior Mason Graham. I think he helps solidify the defensive line and makes their defense that much better with the edge rushers that they already have in Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I wish, with Cam Hayward kind of getting to the end of his career, if the Steelers had this pick, as a Steelers fan, I would be just so excited for Mason Graham on the team. But next up, we've got the Raiders. Man, I feel like the Raiders need help in a lot of places besides the quarterback, since they did just get Geno Smith. Pete Carroll's a new coach there. They could get a receiver. They don't really have a true X like you mentioned with the Jags. Jacoby Myers is there, but Brock Bowers kind of has that ability to get a lot of targets and be the main guy there too, with this whole new tight end kind of emerging as a receiving threat. So I'm looking at this board and I think Ashton Jeanty, running back for Pete Carroll, I know he likes established in the run game. So I think the Raiders, this fits in perfectly with what they want to do. Ashton Jeanty, I believe, will go to the Raiders. So let's go ahead and draft Jeanty to the Raiders.
I like it. One of the things that I've been waiting to see is how high can Jeanty go. And as we get closer to mocks, closer to the actual draft, I'm interested to see if somebody jumps the gun and takes him like in the top 4, because the general premise around this draft is it's not the best draft class that we've seen. So you're finding blue chip premier players in the top 5, top 10. And, honestly, Ashton Jeanty could be the best player on the board because what he brings to the running back position is, I think, there's such a big gap between him and the next guy, Omarion Hampton, that I think it's just such a value pick no matter where you get Jeanty. My biggest hope is that he doesn't fall to the Bears at 10. So I'm happy with you taking him with the Raiders at 6 here. So that puts me on the clock here with the New York Jets. They signed Justin Fields, so I guess he's going to be their quarterback this year. They're still looking at getting another receiver. Devontae Adams is gone, so it's really just Garrett Wilson. They need help along the offensive line, and they need help along the defensive interior. So the Jets really could go any which way with this. If I'm looking at, establishing a run game with Brees Hall, Braylon Allen, you have Justin Fields, you have Garrett Wilson, but you don't really have another weapon to play alongside Garrett Wilson. And you could go Tet McMillan here, but I actually personally think the Jets would prefer to go with tight end Tyler Warren in this situation. Tyler Warren can play inline. He can play the slot. He can block. He can really be on the field all the time, right? You look at a guy like Colson Loveland, and the tight end out of Michigan, and I think he works better as an inline kind of slot tight end / receiver. Well, Tyler Warren, I think, can play inline and can play in the slot, and I think he can be valuable when the Jets are trying to run, and he can be valuable when the Jets are trying to pass. So a guy that basically can be a Swiss Army knife, can play everywhere, and he's an absolute football player, man. I think every team is going to love Tyler Warren, and I think every team's going to want Tyler Warren, but I think the Jets snag him here at 7.
Yeah, you talk about blue chip tight end. Tyler Warren is that guy. So solid pick for the Jets there. All right, Panthers are on the clock. I think their most glaring needs is going to be wide receiver. And this is amazing. I thought you were going to go McMillan with the Jets, and I'm glad you did it because that just sets it up perfectly. You know, they don't have that true true receiver there. Leggett is there. Thielen's still there, but no one that can really, win those 50-50 balls like McMillan has shown that he can in college. I think he's going to be a great pick for the Panthers. Let's go ahead and draft him.
I like him, man. I like Tet a lot. I think the discourse around him as we're getting closer to the draft, for whatever reason, is that because of his 40 time and all this crap, that his stock is falling. But I could not disagree more. I think somebody that drafts Tet is going to be in an absolute fantastic position. And man, it's going to be exciting to see if he does go to the Panthers. You get Bryce and Tet. That combination should be scary for years to come. All right, Saints at number 9, Shovit. Saints roster, in my opinion, is in quite a bit of a pickle. They're always in cap hell. They're always looking to fortify pretty much premier positions. At this point, you still have Alvin Kamara on the roster, but he's getting older, so running back's a need. But with Ginty off the board, I don't think you can take Omarion Hampton here this early. They do need wide receiver as well, even though they have Olave and Shaheed. But so I don't think it's that big of a focus. But I'm actually looking along the defensive side. I think defensive line is somewhere that they're going to focus on. And I know there's a lot of interior defensive linemen this year. You have Grant, Nolan, Harmon, Alexander, even his Sanders and Tyleik Williams. But I think if they're going to take somebody this early, they want somebody that's going to be able to not only stop the run, but can also get to the quarterback. And I think Derek Harmon is one of the best defensive interior pass rushers that we have who can also stop the run. And I know this seems high for an interior defensive lineman, but at 9, I think the Saints, who again need to fortify that defensive line. They drafted a couple of edge rushers in the past couple of years, Brian Brzee, that hasn't really panned out. So they're needing to generate some more pass rush. So I am going to take Derek Harmon with number 9.
Man, if I'm watching this draft, I'm saying, no, that was a guy the Steelers could get. That's like, you just took him and so early, and I would be very sad. But that's how it goes. You don't trade up, you lose your players. The Chicago Bears are on the clock, and honestly, like the Bears are a pretty decent team as far as their rosters goes. There's not any like glaring holes. You just got the quarterback of the future that you believe. And so you really kind of just either. I think if Ginty is available, which he's not anymore, you go and get a running back like Ginty. And I've seen him on a lot of mock drafts as well. But I think now you have to kind of focus on your team as a whole. And one of the places that you could kind of improve on is the linebacker position. And I'm seeing a guy, Jihad Campbell. I think he's a solid pick for them. They've got the Edmond brothers there, but that's a position that could, they could use some depth in. So I think Jihad Campbell is a good pick. So let's go ahead and pick him for the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, he's good in a 4-3 and a 3-4 scheme, right? So there's really no scheme that he's not going to fit perfectly in. He's the best linebacker in the draft. And like you said, Terrell Edmonds and TJ Edwards, I believe, are their linebackers. So they're in a situation where they could absolutely get another guy who in this draft is probably top 10 in terms of best player available. So I like Jihad Campbell going to the Bears there at 10. That brings the 49ers up on the clock, Shovit, with the 11th pick, and this team is just in a complete rebuild mode. They traded away Deebo Samuel. They've lost a lot of their offensive line. So really, they can probably go every which way. Jahdae Barron's on the board. They lost Charvarius Ward. The problem with Jahdae Barron is he projects to be more of a slot cornerback in the NFL, and the 49ers are desperate for an outside cornerback. Now, you could probably project to play him outside if you really wanted to. He played there his senior year, and he was actually fine. But based on his size and his hands, he does project to be more of a slot cornerback. So I'm a little hesitant taking him here. I think what you can do is you can actually just continue to fortify for Brock Purdy. If you're going to pay Brock Purdy, what you need to do is get help for Brock Purdy. They lost Aaron Banks. They can go out and get Armand Membu because Teron Armstead, I believe, is no. Why am I drawing a blank on their Trent Williams. Trent Williams isn't getting any younger. So I think Armand Membu is going to be another guy who can come in, step in, learn from one of the best in the business. And at this point, I think he's going to be really, really good for that run blocking scheme, which is what the 49ers try to deploy. So give me Membu here for the 49ers at 11.
Nice. All right. So the Cowboys, Cowboys needs, they really need everybody. They need another guy to be alongside a CeeDee Lamb. They need to improve their defensive line, losing a key guy there. And so let's see, we got wide receiver, defensive line, edge. I feel like on wide receiver side, they could try to get, was it Golden?
Matthew Golden out of Texas.
I think he'd be a great compliment. They could try to get some of the Omarion Hampton as a running back, but I don't know if that's too early as well. Let's see where Omarion Hampton falls on this board. Are you able to?
Yeah.
He's okay. He's right there.
The Cowboys are notorious for what's it called, for reaching. So I wouldn't put it past them to take a skill position player at 12 when he doesn't belong to go there.
Yeah, I mean, it's between Golden and Hampton for me. And honestly, I think Golden's fast and he's a playmaker in that sense. His combine was great, but I think Jerry Jones goes with his running back. He likes his running backs, and Omarion Hampton is the guy I think that he'll go with, and maybe they'll address the receiver and the defensive line in another round.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I think if Ginty falls to them, that's obviously best case scenario for them. But you're right. I think where I would have leaned is what you said. They need somebody with CeeDee Lamb. They have no wide receiver too, really, right? Who did they sign? Miles Sanders and some other journeyman running back that for some reason I can't think of the name right now. So
come on, it's gonna come to me at some point.
Yeah, hopefully it comes to you.
Javonte Williams.
Yes, Javonte Williams. Yes, so they signed Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. I think you can try to get as much possible out of that two-headed backfield as you can, especially because you paid money for both of them. That's why I find it hard to believe that they would go running back again at 12, but you never know. Jerry's a wild card, so you just never know what he's going to do. That brings the Dolphins up on the board at 13, and I think this couldn't have been more of a better spot for them. I think you're going to take Malachi Starks here to play on the back line for them. He's basically a Brian Branch clone. He can play inside the box. He can play outside the box. I think they need help on their back half. Jalen Ramsey's gone, so give me Malachi Starks. I think he's an awesome fit for the Dolphins at 13.
Cool. All right. Colts' biggest need is a tight end, and we have a tight end that's available. Tight end, the second best tight end in this draft, which is Colston Loveland, and just right there on the top of the boards for us here. So I think the Colts address that, and they get their tight end of their future.
I like it. 2 tight ends going in the top 14 this year. It is an interesting year for the draft for sure, man. I think we're going to be very, very surprised when the draft happens, because the way this mock is set up with the way these rankings are, I think this is going to be a year where teams' big boards look so different from each other that we're going to see a guy that's ranked like in the 50s here go in the first round. And so none of that is going to shock me this year because of the lack of blue chip talent on the top end. So the Falcons are on the board at 15 here. The Falcons need quite a bit of help. They need help along the offensive line. They need help on the defense desperately. I think this is where I'm going to go. It's going to be pretty obvious for me. I'm going to go Mike Green, edge on the defensive line. The Falcons need to generate pass rush. They need pressure bad to get to the quarterback. And I think, again, you have Michael Penix, you have the offense, you have the receivers, and you have the running back. So I think they need to attack the defense as hard as they possibly can. Yes, would I love to put in a wide receiver there with Drake London and potentially Darnell Mooney? I would, but I think that's kind of a plethora of riches, if you will, and they need to address the defense. So give me Mike Green, edge out of Marshall there for the Falcons.
Nice. All right. Yeah, next up, we have the Cardinals. They still need a lot of defensive players, and they could use a second wide receiver as well. So I'm looking at either a defensive player or a wide receiver for them. Let's see. Let's go. And I think in wide receiver, we have Matthew Golden right there, just waiting for us to be picked up. And so, I think he'll take the top off of defenses as well, just with his speed. And he's just going to be a good kind of, player for them to just make their team a lot better than where they are right now. So, let's go ahead and get Matthew Golden. I know you pointed some cornerbacks. They do need some cornerback help as well. And, that would also be a solid pick, but I'm going to focus on the offensive side for this purpose of this mock draft, and let's go Golden here.
I like it. I like it. A lot of defensive players are going to be falling down the board. So these
Yeah.
teams that need defenders are going to be really, really excited.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's a bad fit. They lost Rondell Moore. They still have Michael Wilson, who they drafted a couple years back, who could probably fill out that wide receiver 2 role, but it's not like he's some impressive, amazing player. So you pair Matthew Golden, who's an elite route runner, who's got the speed, pairing him with Marvin Harrison Jr., who doesn't have the speed. I think they're two different receivers, so they could really complement each other. So I don't mind it. And, at this point, Kyler Murray is falling into what's the most we can get out of this player? Like, is he elite but doesn't quite have it kind of guy? So in the final couple of years of his contract, potentially looking to trade him or pivot off of him, they need to throw the resources to see if he can really take them to the promised land. So I don't hate it. Bengals at 17. Bengals need all the help, man. They use all of their money on quarterback, receiver. So they have basically nothing. They really need everything here: offensive line, defensive line, defensive interior, defensive exterior. So I was going to go best player available. Ironically, I don't feel the need to give them a cornerback here. Obviously, we don't need to give them a receiver since they just paid 2 of them premier money. So honestly, I was actually looking at edge James Pierce. You could pair him with a Trey Hendrickson and again, get more pass rush, right? The Bengals defense has been abysmal. And the best way I think that teams, at least in the last 5 years, are attacking the draft is if they can build in the trenches, it helps mask the rest of the defense. And right now, I think the Bengals, they have a stud in Trey Hendrickson. So if they just bring another guy to pair with him, I think that defensive line can be absolutely vaunted. So I'm going to take James Pierce Jr. edge out of Tennessee there to go to the Bengals.
Yeah, if they can get Trey Hendrickson to stay, pairing with James Pierce, that would be solid for the Bengals. They need that help. The Seahawks. Now the Seahawks, I think, definitely need wide receivers. They lost DK Metcalf. JSN's the only guy there. The problem
they did bring in Cooper Kupp.
They did bring Cooper Kupp, but I think you don't know what you're gonna get with a 31-year-old Cooper Kupp at this point. And so I'm looking at best available here. Luther Burden's there. Can we see guards as well? Let's see what the interior offensive line looks like. That also does need to be
Tyler Booker's right there. He's the highest graded interior offensive line. There are some tackles that project to be interior offensive line, like Gray Zabel, I think, Kelvin Banks even. Yeah. So you have some tackles who could shift inside, but that's what we're looking at right now.
This is a team that could probably trade up and address the tackle or offensive line later on the draft, but depending on how it plays out. So let's just go with the best available receiver here, Luther Burden. The third will do that, address that issue, and then maybe in the next round and somewhere later on, the guard and center needs will be addressed.
Luther Burden goes to the Seattle Seahawks at 18. You get another weapon for Sam Darnold. I like his fit because he's a different style receiver to JSN and Cooper Kupp, who are more like slot heavy receivers. Burton's comparison is Deebo Samuel. He's basically a get the ball in his hands and let him work. So a lot to like there. And again, I think when you have a player like that you can get the ball behind the line of scrimmage or just on screens, it makes life for Sam Darnold a lot easier. So I don't hate it. It is interesting that you are really, really targeting these skill positions for a lot of these teams. So I feel like this would be an exciting draft for a lot of fan bases. They'd be like, yes, my team got another skill position. So definitely not the meat and potatoes of the line and stuff, but I can appreciate it. The Tampa Bay Bucks are on the clock at 19 here, Shobit. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think they're going to go strictly defense. They lost Carlton Davis, so I'm going to go ahead and just give them Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. He can play the outside. His comparisons, Darius Slay. They need somebody who can play the outside, losing Carlton Davis. So go ahead and come on down, Darius Slay.
Nice. Tom. All right. Next up, we've got the Denver Broncos. Again, another team that looks pretty decent on paper as far as the talent and everything is concerned. One position that they could also need is receiver as well. So Emeka Egbuka, a solid route runner. I think he's going to be a good fit for them. And so I think they go receiver here. So I know I've been targeting receivers. It's a fun draft. Let's keep this fun going, and let's draft Emeka Egbuka for the Broncos.
Damn, bro. All right. Receiver for the Broncos. They already have like 7 of them, but let's see which one's going to pan out there with Vele freaking who did they drafted somebody in the first round last year. Oh yeah, they already have Sutton, but Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims. So yeah. I mean, Emeka Egbuka should be better than most of those guys for sure.
None of those
I
guys
just think
have panned out outside of Sutton, right? He's the only consistent one. I don't know if I've seen anything from like Vele or any of these guys that you could be like, okay, he's a true alpha that you got. Not that Ibuka is that amazing talent, but he's a great route runner and can move the chains, I believe. So they'll need that.
Steelers on the board at number
Oh,
21. I get to pick for them here. They need a quarterback, obviously. It still seems like Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers is what's going to ultimately happen because they don't have a quarterback. So I don't imagine them going into the season with Mason Rudolph, and I don't imagine them potentially drafting Shedeur Sanders here. Could they? They absolutely could, but I don't think they're going to do it. So I'm not going to take Shedeur Sanders here. I'm looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have they lost Najee Harris. They have Jalen Warren. They could go running back. I don't see another running back that deserves a first round pick here. Could they go along the defensive side? I still think the Steelers team needs another cornerback, to be honest. And I think if you have Joey Porter Jr. playing the outside, Jahdae Barron, who can play the outside, he can also play the nickel. I think having a lockdown nickel, similar to what the Chiefs did when they drafted Trent McDuffie, I think that's going to be really, really important for this team. And the fact that they went out and they traded for DK Metcalf, their offense is okay. I think you can have Jalen Warren be your RB1 and be fine. So yes, could you draft a quarterback here? Absolutely. But I think they are playing the Aaron Rodgers card. Even though that's not a long-term solution, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are in a potential win now. So go ahead and give me Jahdae Barron for the Pittsburgh Steelers at cornerback.
Nice. Solid. Yeah. That's a good pick for the Steelers. All right. Next up, we have the Chargers. And the Chargers, what do they need?
Don't say it, shove it. Don't say it. Don't you say it.
I mean, they definitely need a receiver. And I feel like I kind of shot myself in the foot here because a lot of receivers have been drafted. And now we're looking at like, second round picks for the receiving core. Let's see, what else do they need? Let's see, the Chargers, running back, a defensive tackle, an edge rusher as well. Let's see, what do we have for edge? Donovan Izuraka or Kenneth Grant. And okay. Man, this is tough. I'm not sure what the Chargers will do. I think that they will probably draft a receiver in this draft, but a lot of receivers have been taken off the board. And if this plays out this way, I can't see them, reaching for some of the other receivers that are available. So, Kenneth Grant, that Michigan, we've got the Michigan connection with Harbaugh. So, let's go ahead and draft Kenneth Grant for Michigan. Let's do that.
Yeah, he's got really, really rare size and speed combination. I don't know that they would take receiver here, even if one was on the board. I mean, they just drafted Quentin Johnson a couple years ago. They just drafted Ladd McConkey last year. So going receiver 3 years in a row, I think it's especially for Harbaugh. I don't personally think he would do it, but I do think trenches makes more sense. I think Kenneth Grant's a great fit. I don't even know if Harbaugh actually coached him. He might have coached him at Michigan. So I'm not 100% sure on that, but I like the Michigan connection there. The Green Bay Packers at 23, Shobit, guess what? They also could use a receiver, but all the receivers, you took them. So there's no receivers left here for them to take in the first round. So I am going to look at them at cornerback position. I mean, this is a situation where, again, the mock, based on where these players are ranked, I don't believe that these are all going to be second-round cornerbacks. They need a cornerback. Jair Alexander is no longer going to be there. They signed Eric Stokes. They brought in Nate Hobbs to play the slot, but they're going to need an outside receiver. One guy that's been climbing up mock drafts because of the way he ran the 40 is Maxwell Hairston. I think he ran in the 4.2s, so he's absolutely climbing up the boards. And Azareye'h Thomas from the Florida State Seminoles is also somebody that's been climbing up mock boards going in the first round. I'm actually going to take Maxwell Hairston for this Packers here. He is long, he is rangy, he is fast, he can play on the outside, and with no Jair, I think he can step in and fill that void.
Nice. All right, the Vikings are on the clock, and I think you guys also need a cornerback as well. So that's probably gonna be my first non-receiver picked up here. Let's see, for cornerback, as far as the talent goes, you picked up a really good cornerback earlier. So let's pick the best available. Trey Amos, I think they will target, just the best available right now. So let's go ahead and do Trey Amos for the Vikings. Curious what you think.
Trey Amos from Ole Miss. He's been projected in a lot of first rounds. Again, this is going to be like a pick your flavor, right? A lot of these cornerbacks do different things for different schemes and different personnel. So Brian Flores looking for somebody to play in his defense. I think Amos has the size and intelligence to do that. So I think he would be a really good fit. I will say again, because the Vikings only have 4 picks, there's a really, really likely chance that they trade down so they can accumulate at least one day 2 pick because they don't have a day 2 pick right now. So that would be something that they would probably try to target. But in BPA, I think you need cornerback. So I don't hate the pick at all. Houston Texans on the clock at 25. Shove it. They also need a wide receiver. They lost Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell is recovering. All they have is Nico Collins. But there is no way I can get out of this draft without giving them an offensive lineman. They have traded away what we thought were decent to bad ones, and they brought even worse ones in. So I think at this point, you have to go ahead and get an offensive lineman. Josh Simmons, outside of the injury concerns, in my opinion, is the best tackle on the board. He's might be the best tackle in the draft. So I think if injuries and medicals are cleared, you have to take him from Ohio State to the Houston Texans here at 25. Protect CJ Stroud.
Nice. Awesome. All right. The Rams are on the clock, and I think that they definitely need some defensive line help and cornerback help. And so I am looking at some cornerbacks that are available or even edge. Let's see what we got with the edge. Donovan
Ezeraku.
He's been falling here. Let's take a look at the analysis. Okay. All right. Ideal for 3-4 pass rush. I think they'll be a good team. I think he'll be a good pickup for the Rams. The Rams are pretty close last year. They were probably the most competitive team against the Eagles, and so they're pretty close to getting to that promised land. If they can just have the right fit on as far as the whole team is concerned. So let's go ahead and get Donovan Ezeraku on this team.
Donovan Ezeraku goes to the LA Rams. They have a pretty vaunting defensive line already, but again, as the Eagles have taught us anything, it's okay to always continue to stash that position and rotate them in so they keep them all fresh. Speaking of teams that do that, the Ravens are on the clock at 27. Shove it. They need a guard, they need an edge, they need a defensive back. This is a tough one. I really like Jalen Walker here to them. He is more of a kind of a box presence, off-ball linebacker who can get after the pass rush, who can really defend as well. And I think that could be where they're going. It wouldn't hurt them to get an offensive lineman. Kelvin Banks is still on the board. He actually is somebody who projects as a guard, and that is one of their needs. So I am actually going to take Kelvin Banks Jr. and potentially slide him in at guard and play him for the Ravens and get more protection for Lamar Jackson.
Nice. All right. So with the Lions on the clock, I think looking at how the board is kind of shaped up, we probably will target an edge rusher for the Lions just to pair him up with Aiden Hutchinson. And Mikael Williams is still on the clock. So I think he'll be a solid pick for them. So, yeah, Georgia Bulldog, can't go wrong with that. Let's go with Mikael Williams here.
Mikael Williams, come on down. Like you said, they do need somebody to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. They re-signed Marcus Davenport, who has been basically an injury-prone edge that's getting overpaid for the last 3 years. Did it with the Vikings, did it last year with the Lions, and they brought him back for whatever reason. So I don't expect him to be on the field much. So they do need somebody that can play alongside Hutch. So I like Mikael Williams there. Commanders on the clock at 29. They went to the NFC Championship with Jaden Daniels. They brought in Deebo Samuel. They traded for Laramie Tunsil. So they did a really good job of fortifying their team. They have Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, I believe is a free agent. If not, he's too old. And I don't think they're going to bring him back. They could go running back here, but I just don't know that anybody else on the board has a first round grade, in my opinion, to be drafted at 29. You're looking at interior offensive line. You're looking at edge rushers. You're looking at cornerbacks. I think at this point, I'm going to take Darius Alexander, defensive interior, from Toledo. He has a really good opportunity to contribute as a defensive lineman. They lost Jonathan Allen, a pass rushing defensive lineman who went to the Vikings. He is older, so replace him with somebody in Darius Alexander.
Nice. Solid. All right. Next up, we've got the Buffalo Bills, and I know the Bills are probably going to want to, just make their line better with getting an edge talent, and Shamar Stewart is right there, he's a solid pickup. Didn't have a great production last year. I think only like 1.5 sack. However, he's got some solid fundamentals, and I think they can work with that. So Stewart's a good pick here. Let's go ahead and work on that defensive line for the Bills.
Yeah, he seems like a prototypical player that the NFL loves, right? Not as much productivity, but absolute incredible athlete. So you try to project what his future is going to look like, and he should excel at the NFL level if he can get some technique put into his game. That puts the Chiefs on the clock here at 31. They need offensive line help. They need it desperately. They lost Joe Thuney, so they do need offensive line help. I think this is the perfect spot for tackle Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. He is absolutely probably going to push inside and play guard for them. So I think this is an absolute plug and play for Joe Thuney. Bring on Gray Zabel to the Chiefs.
Nice. Awesome. So the Eagles, who just won the Super Bowl, they could use some help in terms of the guard position, in interior offensive line. You could even look at any like Georgia players, and that's probably who they will probably get.
100%.
So just all Georgia. But let's see what we have going on here.
He's going to be our best interior offensive lineman, Tyler Booker.
Yeah, I think Tyler Booker is probably what they will do. They lose Mekhi Becton, so I think to kind of combat his just have his replacement, to say Tyler Booker's a great pickup. So yeah, let's go ahead and draft Tyler Booker for the last pick of the first round.
Yeah, you still have Saquon Barkley, you still have Jalen Hurts. You're a team that loves to run the football. Why would you not get a guard there to fill out that offensive line? That is it, Shovit. That is the first round of the NFL draft. Let me run through it real quick. We have Cam Ward, number 1, Abdul Carter, 2, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty, 6 goes to the Raiders, Tyler Warren, Tet McMillan, Derek Harmon, Jihad Campbell, 10 to the Bears, Armand Membu, Omarion Hampton, the running back, second running back on the board, goes to the Cowboys at 12, Malachi Starks to the Dolphins, Colston Loveland, second tight end, goes to the Colts, Mike Breen, Matthew Golden, the speedy receiver who ran a 4.29, goes to the Arizona Cardinals at 16. You have James Pierce Jr., the edge to the Bengals, Luther Burton, Will Johnson, Emeka Egbuka, Jahdae Barron drops 21, falls to your lap. The Pittsburgh Steelers shove it. Kenneth Grant, 22. Maxwell Harrison climbing up the boards, going to the Green Bay Packers at 23. Vikings go back-to-back with cornerbacks Trey Amos, Josh Simmons, Donovan Ezeraku, Kelvin Banks, Michael Williams, Darius Alexander, Shamar Stewart. The Chiefs help the offensive line with Gray Zabel. And the Eagles say, we match your Gray Zabel, and we one up it with Tyler Booker. So they both help the interior offensive line because they know that's incredibly important to make that Super Bowl run. That is it for the first round. How did we do? I guess we'll find out in less than a month, Shovit. Almost guarantee that this will not go 100% because there will be trades, my man. But how do you feel this draft went?
Yeah, it was interesting. Only one quarterback in the first round. No Shadurs. Cornerbacks kind of went late. Wide receivers looks a lot like last year's draft, but with different players is what is the feel that I'm getting. So it'll be interesting to see how it actually plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you guys think? Did we draft correctly? Did we just completely ignore your team's needs? Sound off in the comments. If you're watching, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It helps spread the word. Socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at The Only Playbook. I'm Sweetcard. That's my Twitter. That's Shovit. That's his Twitter. We are The Only Playbook. We are going to have another episode next week where we do a 7-round mock of my favorite team, the Vikings, and a 7-round mock of his favorite team, the Steelers. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic week. See you guys.